Let us continue with our reading of the novel The Serpent and the Rope. While we were trying to understand the problems relating to the Ramaswamy Medallion marriage, we realized that the person of Savitri plays a contributed role in this. Our relationship with Ramaswamy needs to be examined in some detail, and this helps us locate the reason for the eventual failure of marriage. We also get to know that this relationship plays an important role in Ramaswamy's growth. Raja Rao's delineation of Indian life is also discussed with particular reference to marriage and family life. Ramaswamy's relationship with Savitri. An attempt to pin down the reason for the failure of their marriage will be made after brief consideration of Rama's relationship with Savitri. Like his marriage with Medellin, Rama's meeting Savitri forms an important step in his growth towards self-knowledge. Savitri is the daughter of a Raja of a small princely state studying in Cambridge, and she later marries Pratap, a civil servant. She is westernized, given to smoking, dancing, boogie woogie, and singing jazz. But as Rama finds out, she is truly Indian, deep down, strongly aware of her roots, and it is not for nothing that the novelist has given her the name of Savitri, a name that has rich associations from the Vedic times for every Indian. Thus, superficial exterior is something typical of India, as Raja Rao has himself suggested in a brilliant image. The crust is so superficial, it lies about everywhere, but you can remove it even with a bubble thorn. For Ramaswamy, the Brahmin, the true match, the marriage of true minds lies with one like Savitri and not Medellin, because she with her peacock gold choli, saree of color of the sky, and a large kumkum on her head, a black bead chain around her neck, and her ability to sing songs of Meera is the woman with whom he can strike a perfect relationship from the moment he meets her. After all, it is good to remember that the lack of all these in Medellin bothered Rama intensely, for his ideal woman is auspicious, so auspicious, with kumkum, coconut, and choli piece bangles on the arm. The necklace of black beads is life. But when we examine Savitri as a character in fiction, we see how she is created for us by Raja Rao with the help of various details which are abstract generalization and do not help to create the figure of Savitri in flesh and blood. All that Ramaswamy expected in a woman is found in her. She is the very epitome of Indian woman who would notice both her attributes and their effort on him. Your presence never said anything, but her absence spoke. For Savitri, life was game a song. One knew she had some wisdom of herself that made her voice so intimate, so sustaining, and so pure. With Savitri, truth and tact were but one's instinctive experience. To know Savitri was to wake into the truth of life, to be remembered unto God. She became the awareness behind my awareness, the leap of my understanding. I lost the world and she became it. Savitri proved that I could be. Savitri had such a reverence for things, were she picking up a spoon or holding your pen in hand to write an address. She wanted to surrender to truth and be free. Savitri is a saint. She is whole and simple, whereas she is. There are many more of such references to Savitri. She is only an idealized conception of woman and not much a real person. She is to be taken only as a symbol and is offered almost as a foil to Medellin by the novelist. Ramaswamy justifies even her smoking, though it is offensive to his Brahminic sensibility, has her capacity to be never and at home anywhere. This is the second one. Savitri's role in the failure of Ramaswamy Medellin marriage. Apart from his visit to India, it is his meeting with Savitri that counts for the fissures in his marriage with Medellin. This becomes evident when specific instances in the novel where Ramaswamy makes a comparison between Savitri and Medellin are scrutinized. The first time is when Savitri visits them. As she enters their villa, she open threw open the window and looked out and said, "Oh, it's so beautiful here. Look at that moon of Shiva." And she added, just like in Nainital. As she went up the steps to the landing above, she felt it was a palace, and so did we. We make objects, objects do not make us. Madeline could know more about how made it a palace than I, a home. For Madeline, it was a villa, and I always felt I was her guest. It is this innate instinct of Savitri to see things Indian everywhere that unites her with Ramaswamy. On the contrary, Madeline, being a French woman, is unable to do this. But it is important to remember that this not only points to a limitation in her, but it must count as a deficiency in Ramaswamy's scheme of values as well. And then he had always said namaskara to her and never kissed goodbye in public. For that matter, he says, even to make Madeline's home in public seemed a desecration to me. But with Savitri it was different. Why, I wondered. Why, indeed. Ramaswamy, the narrator, evades a direct answer to this question, but it is all there most implicitly. With a Hindu woman like Savitri, he is totally uninhibited. The third instance is when he is in India for Saroja's marriage. He receives a long letter from Madeline so full of protestations of love and affection for him. She declares, I can love no one but you. But even such a sincere letter evokes no kind response in him, and he feels actually angry, though he adds, maybe it was for Saroja. Soon comes a cable from Savitri which says simply, be happy for me. Your joy is my freedom, and greetings to Saroja. This means so much for Ramana that he decides to make the marriage a success and make the whole world happy. These three instances act as pointers to the relative positions of importance that Savitri and Madeline occupy in Ramaswamy's life. We see that Rama assigns to Savitri a far too significant a place in his life, but this point is being emphasized only to counter the general trend of critical opinion that view Madeline as the main culprit for the failure of their marriage. Rama's comparative assessment of the two women is best expressed in his own words. With Madeline, everything was explanation. With the Savitri, it was recognition. In understanding the relationship between Rama and Savitri, we see clearly another major reason for the failure of the Ramaswamy Madeline marriage. Philosophical and cultural differences between Ramaswamy and Madeline. In spite of their emotional and intellectual bonds, there is also between Rama and Madeline a basic metaphysical difference in their view of the self. That is why Rama repeatedly refers to what the sage Yajnavalkya had said to Maitreyi. For whose sake, verily, does a husband love his wife? Not for the sake of his wife, but verily for the sake of the self in her. The two different world views constitute a fundamental hurdle to achieve a successful marriage, and according to H. M. Williams, we see that throughout the novel, Rama is constantly seeking sameness, unity, and the impersonal. These are Vedantic ideals, while Madeline seeks the opposite, the personal difference, other people as real. Actually, it is this philosophical position that explains the behavior of each towards the other. While Ramaswamy, because of his Vedantic view of life, is able to see the sameness of things, whether he is in India, France, or England, Madeline is bound by the personal and refuses to go behind it. That is the reason why Ramaswamy has a sense of belonging wherever he lives, despite his profound feelings of loneliness, and is able to relate himself to people around him and establish a meaningful relationship with them, as seen in his attachment to Uncle Charles, Tante Joby, and Catherine. However, true Madeline's love is for Ramaswamy. She is unable to think of herself as a member of his family in India. Indeed, the family is the anchor that sustains individuals, and when it is absent, they have to perform depend on each other. Even this does not happen in their case, for we notice Medellin in our conversion to Buddhism moving away from Ramaswamy, and such a marriage has to inevitably perish. In the Ramaswamy Medellin marriage, Raja Rao has portrayed taking into account all the complexities inherent in such a relationship, the coming together of an Indian and a French woman. Its treatment makes for a probing that depicts them not merely as individuals but as representatives of culture, ways of life, philosophical positions that are different, despite the various factors that have contributed to the failure of their marriage. Raja Rao, as an Indian novelist, has been very fair to Medellin. Paradoxically, it is she who emerges as perhaps the most convincing character in the novel. In her reactions, she is a truly French as Ramaswamy is Indian. That her involvement with Buddhism should ultimately degenerate into the level of rituals is a fine insight of Raja Rao. The Western interest in India has more often than not ended up this way, giving birth to numerous cults. In Ramaswamy, on the other hand, we have the presentation of an Indian who is aware of his Indianness. And it is through character like Ramaswamy that Raja Rao is able to give us a convincing image of India for real people, help make the local authentic. In this encounter of two individuals belonging to different nationalities, a cultural confrontations is also involved. Raja Rao has objectively portrayed both the French and Indian cultures in the novel. But in such a portrayal, evaluation of the cultures becomes inescapable. One suspects that the Indian culture is placed on a pedestal as exemplified in the character of Ramaswamy. However, legitimate his feelings that there is an air of superiority that is directly the consequence of his being a Brahmin and heir to a 5,000-year-old civilization. Hence his remark that Brahmins are like race horses. They are either good at their job or they are sent to the vet to be shot. They were never sent to the common butchery. They could not be. In contrast to this, Medellin tells Rama, after all, we Europeans have been civilized only for 1,000 years. And after her meeting with Savitri, she tells him it is 3,000 years of civilization that produces a thing like her. Medellин's tone is matter of fact, the tone betraying the approval of such a value judgment by the novelist. To take another example, talking of his own understanding of Buddhism in contrast to Medellin, he remarks, I feel the word dukkha almost with the entrails dropping into my hand, whereas for her it is mere sorrow. Sorrow. Dukkha is the very tragedy of recreation, the sorrow of the sorrow that sorrow is. Though this is not wholly untrue, the superiority of Ramaswamy is behind question. Then we have Dr. Serafin, who is all praise for Ramaswamy because he is the ideal patient that any doctor can ever hope to get. He says, in his country, it must be so easy to be a doctor. It must all come from their age old civilization, not like the cattle we have to deal with here. One last example should have sufficed to drive home this point. His guide, Professor Robin Bezoin's Science Rama's papers and confesses of his feeling that I had brought light to him and not be it to me. Lest one should accuse Ramaswamy of being vain, we have his guide telling him clearly, you have the wisdom of the ages, you are not a barbarian like us. All these references are sure to make a sensitive reader wonder whether Ramaswamy's pride in his being a Brahmin and an Indian does not smack of racial arrogance. Had Raja Rao used the third person narrative, these remarks would have sounded less offensive. Indian life, marriage. The Serpent and the Rope has God's plenty to offer in terms of the presentation of various aspects of Indian life. To avoid laboring the abuse, only two aspects, marriage and family life, will be dealt with in some detail. There are, of course, many marriages in the novel apart from that Ramaswamy and Madeline. We have Ramaswamy's father's three marriages, his sister Saroja's marriage with Subramanya Shastri, Lakshmi's unhappy marriage with Captain Shamsundar, Savitri's with Stump Pratap, Catherine's with Georges, and Tante Joby's with Uncle Charles. All of them in different ways are measured against the wisdom of Yajnavalkya, who had propounded, as pointed out by C.D. Narasimhaya, that not for the husband's sake is the husband dear, but for the self's sake, and found to be wanting because the desire to possess is the attribute of the self stupid in ignorance. It is only Savitri's love for Ramaswamy that has successfully transcended the petty self into recognition of self, the absolute in personal relationships. This perhaps constitutes the ideal marriage of true minds in the novel. If the philosophical basis of marriage receives profound treatment at the hand of the novelist, we also have a wonderful picture of an Indian marriage of Saroja in the novel. Observe, for instance, the elaborate preparation for the marriage. Men and women came in and out to decide whether this saree was good or the other. Peacock blue won whether the opposite party should be given Dharmavaram saris or only cotton conchi ones, and the gold sovereign will do the rest. The cooks, fat bellied, blenching, bejeweled, snuff in their palms and money tucked away at their waist, came in to ask if no one needed 1,000 laddus or 1,200, and whether the laddus would be for the second day or the third, and whether milk had been ordered for the kheer and saffron, almond, and sugar. The house began to fill increasingly with the neighbors making papadums. The Brahmins came and showed their 32 teeth, knowing that no, the master of the house was coming from London too. They said between themselves there would be nothing lacking in honor and silver. The bamboos for the pandal began to arrive too. All the bustle that marks the Indian wedding house is faithfully captured by Raja Rao with the help of significant details. Such a description could have come only from an insider, and a marriage in the Indian family is not merely a ritual that brings together two people but is also an occasion for all the relations near and far to meet and renew their acquaintances. Of course, Uncle Sitaramu was there, and my cousins Sita, Parvati, Papa, Lakshmi Devi, Nanja, Sita, Kaveri, Anandi, Venkatalakshmi, Bhagirathi, and Savitri. The Savitri was a lean and haggard thing, having borne 4 children in succession. Year after year, her belly was round and her breasts interminate. Father's cousins Ramachandra and Lakshmi Narayana were there too, gay with laughter and spontaneous fun. Sanskrit, Kannada, Urdu, Telugu, English were full of contradictory significances. So a word in this language means something to me and something quite different to you, and so you laughed. Indian marriages are so full of gaiety, fun and laughter, and all this comes through in the novel. A few more illustrations should conclusively point to the more remarkable evocative quality in Raja Rao's writings. Notice the atmosphere and the under the wedding pandal. All the women who were gathered under the pandal, and there was a smell of camphor, Lucknow perfumes, and bitter leaves. The shine of white teeth, the splendor of black and gold saris, the magnificence of earrings, neckbands, nose drops, diamond marks on the forehead, an innocent joy which showed that man was made for natural happiness. Or in the inner courtyard of the house, what blues and greens of saris, what diamonds, rubies, and sapphires were seen to glint, and by the Tulsi Soroja was drying her spread hair on the fire basket while the women were busy anointing her with henna and turmeric. Mango leaves and silver pots were to be seen all over the veranda. Or after the wedding is over, but the whole house seemed empty now. The women had all gone to the other house. Carpets were deranged, flower garlands were withering in corners, children were asleep on half open beds, and smells of incense and children's urine wandered everywhere with no one to smell them. Any more comment would certainly be superfluous. In one of the numerous upakathas, it means subsidiary stories, present in the novel, we have the story of Ishwar Bhatta's pilgrimage to Benares. As he sets out, he carries his 7-year-old daughter on his shoulder, and the manner in which he gets her married to an ascetic is uniquely Indian. And when he had approached the ascetic and offered many courtesies, Ishwar Bhatta said, "Venerable sir, you are lonely. I have a daughter to marry. Please become my son in law." And the venerable ascetic said, "What may I do with a wife? I have all my wife 5 austerities to perform." To this Ishwar Bhatta made answer, "No, venerable sir, it is meet for a man to marry and found family and death, health, that sacrifice may be made. I, sir, fulfill the duties of your householder." And the venerable man said, "So be it, so be it." Whereupon Ishwar Bhatta took tulsi, lead, and water and gave the daughter unto the venerable ascetic. Then he said, "I go, be happy, daughter and son in law." And running towards the setting sun, he went. And then there is also the ritual marriage of Ramaswamy and Savitri in his room at Kensington. According to C.D. Narasimhaya, even though Savitri marries Pratap, there is a higher relationship with Rama, who, though only potentially, represented the highest self, that which she was in quest of from life to life. But still she was Savitri and not Radha, as Ramaswamy was not yet Krishna, and hence we have only a symbolic union in the novel. Indian life, family. Indian life, family. Family is a very important institution in the Indian society, for in A.L. Basham's view, the family, rather than the individual, was looked on as the unit of the social system. Within the family, human relationships play a very significant role, and this has been very well delineated by Raja Rao. We have Ramaswamy's deep attachment for his father. The father, a mathematician, was sad that his son did not follow his area of study, but was happy that Ramaswamy chose to work on Albizinian years, for he thought India should be made more real to the European. When Rama marries Medellin, his reaction is mixed. He is unhappy for she could not sing at an arati, but before the world he boasted of his intellectual daughter-in-law. Rama, who found it hard to know his father and love him while he was alive, understands him only after his death. Even though Little Mother is his stepmother, Ramaswamy is able to find in her his lost mother, for she loved him very dearly. And there is the wonderful relation between a brother and a sister, see, as seen in Ramaswamy and Saroja. It is she who makes him aware of the sensibilities of a Brahmin girl and also of the blossoming of womanhood in a young girl. She is so close to her brother that she can only confide with him. It is again her love for him that finally makes her yield to marrying Subramanya Shastri. It is these relationships that help make the presentation of Indian family life real and credible. Richard Leno believes that joint family is a microcosm of the profoundly pluralistic nature of Indian culture in all its manifestations. There is a strong feeling of connectedness among the members of family in India. This is incessantly brought out in Ramaswamy's reflections. Living in the intimacy of my own family, where every gesture, idiosyncrasy, or mole mark was traced back to some cousin, aunt, or grandfather, where there was such a subtle understanding of offset things, of acts that were respected or condemned according to the degree of stature, age, or sex of one another, gave a feeling of complex oneness from which one could never get out save by death. And even after that, one would get into it again in the next life, and so until the wheel of existence was ended. And he goes on to illustrate it with a few instances. Father scratched his leg just there at the arch of his foot with the second finger, just like you. Sukumari remarked one evening. Look, Rama, look, little mother said. Sridhara has a mole under his right arm, just where you have. One night, when little mother was telling me a story, I went to sleep saying, Yes, yes, and everybody laughed, for I was snoring. Just like his grandmother, said Aunt Sata, who had joined us. Check me your progress. Let me once again check your progress by posing a few questions. Your comprehensions of the novel will be evident in your answers. Discuss the significance of Ramaswamy's relationship with Savitri. Then second, how does Savitri contribute to the failure of Ramaswamy Medellin marriage? Then third, describe the philosophical and cultural differences between Ramaswamy and Medellin. Then fourth, comment on two important aspects of Indian life, marriage and family as depicted by Raja Rao. Now let's go to the summing up. Now that you have read the first two units, you should be quite familiar with the major themes of the novel, and you are also now aware of the various reasons that contribute to the failure of Ramaswamy Medellin. The fact that Savitri plays an important role in Ramaswamy's growth towards self knowledge is clear to you. Rao has given us in the novel very evocative pictures of Indian life. Okay, we will meet again in another episode.